Good morning. It is another beautiful day here in my garden. It's late June and the weather couldn't be better. Up till yesterday, I even had to have a sweatshirt on in the morning. I can't believe it. Though things are headed our way. It's supposed to be 104 this weekend. So it's our first triple digit, I think our first triple digit of the year. And it's about a month later than normal, and I'll take it. Absolutely. It's been wonderful. It just means getting up a little earlier in the morning, doing our garden chores earlier in the day or later in the evening before it gets too hot. One of the things I wanted to chat about today was actually thinking about weather and climate, is the concept of zones. I have seen several comments on some of my gardening pages, people talking about zones. I had someone say to me, how could you just be getting tomatoes when I'm pulling up my plants, the season's over, and we're both in the same zone? And I've talked about plants that grow at my mother's garden but don't grow here, or at least not that well. So clearly there's something to be understood about climates, microclimates, and zones, and I think we sometimes get those confused. So for instance, my mom and I are in the same zone, the USDA zone, which is 9B. So if you look at a map of the United States, the USDA has created these zones that sort of appear to me to be these banded rainbow-esque type, stretches where they're trying to illustrate temperature, coldness. So the USDA zones are really just how cold hardy a plant is, which is really why people here out in California can be in zone 9B, and people in Florida are also a zone 9B, but those two couldn't be more different in terms of gardening. And I think it's a little misleading talking about the zones, because yes, while it's important to understand how much cold a plant could take and understand, there's not a whole lot of differentiation. I mean, from zone 5 to 6 or 6 to 7, there's some plants, maybe depending on your microclimate, that might do better. For instance, Angel's Trumpet. Angel's Trumpet is not supposed to do all that great in zone 9B, but yet it can overwinter if you just baby it along a little bit, put it in a protected spot. As you may have known from a previous video, I'm experimenting with them in my garden this year. So it's not a very practical way to approach understanding how your plants will perform in the garden year-round. It's really a great way to understand just will they survive over winter or not. Here on the West Coast, we have something called the Sunset Garden, Western Garden Guide. This is mine. This is old. Oh boy, I think I bought mine in the 90s. I think they still make them, but they've also gone online and turned out a little bit more digital, or turned themselves into more digital. This guide, if you live on the West Coast, highly, highly recommend that you go out, find your Sunset Garden zone. I can't have my coffee and my book at the same time. This is the Sunset Garden Zone book. I love this book. It's a great reference. Mine's out of date, but really, that's okay. I can get the updated information online. This is perfect for understanding your microclimate and how it may differ and how the plants will perform. And if you get your plants at some of these amazing nurseries like Green Acres, which is what my local nursery is, but Annie's Annual, Bluestone Perennials, right? They will tell you your Sunset Garden Zone, and it's really important because things that do well in one microclimate might not do well in another year-round. It's important to understand the distinction. So I planted comfrey, which I got from my mom. It is an amazing shrub in her I mean, she can't kill it. It's like reproducing and going to seed, and it's just expanding in her garden. My guess is that I'm going to have to baby it along with a lot of water here in my zone. So what's the difference between us? Well, what's so cool about the Sunset Garden Guide is that it will tell you your different microclimates and different zones. So when you go to, for instance, their book, they will show you, because you might live in, you know, a valley where, you know, cold air sinks. I've often noticed that here in Folsom in the morning, we might actually be warmer than just a couple miles up the hill. I mean, colder just up than a couple miles up the hill. You'd think going up in elevation would be cooler, but in the winter, cold air sinks, so we actually are colder. So there's some really interesting microclimates to pay attention to. So for us here in my area, when I look at this, this says, and I can find, they don't have Folsom per se on my map, but they do have Folsom Lake. They do have a couple of my surrounding towns of El Dorado Hills and Orangevale. So I can go and I can look, and it's zone 9. That's not the USDA zone 9. I'm in the USDA zone 9B. I'm in the Sunset zone 9. Whereas my mom, if I look at the at where her zone is on the coast, she's 17. Big difference, right? Big difference. So now if we go and look at what they describe those differences as, they will tell us. So zone 9 for me says a thermal belt, safer for citrus. Let's see what else it says. Hibiscus, Pittosporum, and other plants you can grow in zone 9, but not in zone 8, which is slightly colder. Summer daytime temperatures are high. Sunshine is almost constant during the growing season. Growing seasons are long. Deciduous fruits and vegetables of nearly every kind thrive in these long, hot summers, and winter cold is just adequate to satisfy the dormant requirements of fruit trees. Fiercely cold, piercing north winds blow for several times during the winter, but they're more distressing to gardeners than garden plants. And there's more information to be found here. So super helpful, right? So what it tells you is I can grow citrus, I can put in maybe some of these other plants that are a little bit more tender than a colder zone might be able to do. There's a distinction between zones 9 and 10 or 9 and 8, and they will tell you why. Versus if you look at my mom's, 17, she really lives in just a wonderful zone. It's influenced by the ocean, poor climates for plants such as fuchsias, rhododendrons, and tuberous begonias. They are prime citrus growing country, and they need a little extra summer heat to grow sweet fruit, and you can grow macadamia nuts and avocados. So she does have citrus. She has these really cool, like Filipino, I think they're called Filipino limes. So understanding your climate is really important. So I suggest, if you haven't yet, go pick up a copy of this Western Garden Guide, or go online to Sunset and they will help you find your zone. And then, check it out at your local nursery. I picked up a couple plants yesterday. The tag actually says Sunset Zone, blah, blah, blah. In fact, let me go see if I can find one. Yeah, right here. I picked up these flowering maples. I may be crazy, but I picked up these flowering maples at the nursery yesterday at Green Acres. This is a great local nursery, or grower they carry, Monterey Bay Nursery. I think it's Abulton is how you say the Latin name. I always know them as flowering maple. And it says a vigorous evergreen shrub, grows best in part sun to mostly shade with average watering. Sunset zones 8, 9, and 12 to 24. That's way more helpful than just saying USDA zone 9B. In fact, you notice it doesn't even tell you what the USDA Zone 9B is, because that doesn't really help us. If you were in a zone, let's say 10, let's go see what Zone 10 is, because it says 10 shouldn't grow it. So where's 10? Let's find it. Zone 10 looks like, maybe there isn't a Zone 10. Let's see where it says. Oh, it said 7. You couldn't grow it in 7. Okay, so let's see what 7 says. 7 is California's Gray Pine Belt, Oregon's Rogue River Valley, and Southern California mountains. It says that it's really the ranges, the mountain ranges that separate the coast from the interior deserts. Lots of gray pines, incense cedars, hot summers, mild but pronounced winters. Give Zone 7 sharply defined seasons without severe winter cold or enervating humidity. I don't know what enervating means. So it says climate that pleases plants that require marked seasonal patterns do well. So flower bulbs, peonies, and lilacs. So this guy, this beautiful flowering maple, would not do well in Sunset Zone 7 because it doesn't like that. It likes a little bit more consistent, a bit more mild. These are evergreen. So I have a couple already in my orphan garden. They're orange, and so I picked up these pink ones because I like pink. I may have a problem. And so now I know. I understand why this does well. If I'm in one of the other zones, I can go and check it out. Just like the USDA, the lower the number, the colder the temperature. So if you look at the map, you can see that. The higher the number, typically the more mild the temperature is. So you can check out this amazing map, find your spot on there, and you can go and get more information. So this is why when you join those gardening clubs, like I belong to several, Zone 9B vegetable gardening, or Zone 9E, Zone 9B, flower planting. They're great for sharing information, but it's not going to give you the full picture. The seasons will be different. People in Florida are planting way earlier than we are here in the Sacramento Valley. They had their tomatoes in January, where we didn't get our tomatoes in this spring. It was super late. I usually plant mine in April, sometimes March. I didn't get mine really going until May this year, which is super late. They're just pulling their tomatoes out in Florida, where mine are just starting to produce. They're pulling out some of their cucumbers. Their cucumbers are done. Our cucumbers are just starting to produce here. So it's really important not to base your decisions on what does well in someone else's garden, unless they live in, a similar climate to you. It's best to do your research, find out what the plants, likes are. This is a great reference guide if you're on the West Coast. I don't think anything like this exists on the East Coast, but or in the South. I'm not sure. I know that they try to branch out and help people understand on a national level what zones might be, but I'm not sure how much that's taken off or how much that's updated. Be interesting to go and check that out. But for my fellow gardeners on the West Coast, highly recommend you go pick up this guide and use this as a reference more often than you would use USDA zones. It just will, I think, be a better way for you to understand what will perform well and what won't, and the reasons why, so you can replicate success. All right, thank you, and have a wonderful day. I hope you get out and get a chance to enjoy your garden as much as I have gotten a chance to enjoy mine this morning. Okay, quick update. I went in and went on the computer and did some research on the Sunset book, and it turns out they're not making it anymore. They've really transitioned to a fully digital system. So I encourage you to go to sunset.com and go check it out. They've got a list of plants. You can research, you can find out your sunset zone, and start integrating that into how you're thinking about planting and caring for your plants. All right, I hope you enjoy your garden today. Bye.